Today on Let 'Em Cook, offline versus online events for the FGC. Are too many online events killing the momentum for Street Fighter 6? Is that what's really affecting people's views of the game?
And you know, we also got to touch up on the Just Stop Oil protest that had been happening recently. Happened at EGX 2023. It's also happened again at CPT Paris.
Should we just stop whining about changes in games? When does the meta actually matter, and is patch culture ruining our fighting games?
We got all that and more today. Let's cook. All right. Yeah. Come on. Yeah. I'm thinking about the good times.
We got somebody new up on this podcast. What's up, Lumi? How you doing? Glad to see you. Yeah, glad to see another person added.
If you guys don't know who Lumi is this amazing TikTok creator on for the FGC. He's an awesome dude. He also edits Freestyle the News for me, and he's just an all-around good guy. Lumi, do you want to tell the people a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, been in the FGC not too long, honestly, like a handful of years, probably like 2 or 3 years. But in that time, I've just been like kind of talking to everyone I can. So this is sort of a form of that. I just love talking to people about fighting games and stuff like that, and I hope we can have some fire conversations. I definitely want to cook on this podcast.
But yeah, we got a lot to talk about today. So you want to start us off, Lumi? What's our first topic?
Yeah, absolutely. So what will we change about Street Fighter 6? Now, there is a lot of talk. You know, we're talking about it on Twitter, X, whatever the hell you call it. And a lot of people are out of like the honeymoon phase. We've discussed that before and stuff like that. Some people feel like they definitely need a shot of adrenaline when it comes to Street Fighter 6. How do y'all feel about that in general?
I feel like the game doesn't necessarily, like, I do feel like, again, it's still the same thing of people who are investing a lot of time. So it's their job. And when it's your job, you feel a lot differently about this game than when it's your hobby, right? And again, Twitter or X or whatever the fuck tends to prioritize the most negative things you could say about something. And we don't really have, there's a lot of resources we don't have for games to kind of grow healthily the way they're supposed to be. So I do think that that's a part of it. However, there was a point that somebody brought up, which was that a lot of the events post Evo have been primarily online. And I think that experience, that in-personal experience of that, has made it very difficult to follow and have explosive moments to really talk about, because every single year Evo is this big explosive moment. It captures the headlines because there's a lot of promotion and ideas and things around it. And we have other like big events, you know, a lot of Red Bull events will do that as well. CPT finals always does that. But these other events have not had a lot of shine, you know, and a lot of the online events have not had a lot of shine, primarily because we've had a bunch of online events. It's very impersonal. You're not really getting to see the players or get that. You get commentary that's great, but it's just a different vibe. I mean, what do you think, Cola?
Man, I have traveled for so many weeks around the world for this game, and the difference from online and offline, just in terms of the cadence, how people speak about the game, is so very. If you go to just a Twitter or X or whatever the hell it is, you think everybody hates the game, wants it to be destroyed, and yada yada. You go offline, people are enjoying, they're smiling, having fun. I just went to Puerto Rico recently for First Attack, and I'm sitting there playing casuals for hours upon hours. I got my ass kicked by Grand Totokai for dozens of games, and I didn't get off that station, bro. I was like, beat me up until I hate this character. And he did. But I felt happier than even when I win than online, because as you mentioned, the interpersonalness, it's there. I can sit there and talk to somebody. I can have a chat. I can discuss the game. I can learn even faster. In that offline sort of sense is just so much better. It's just so much more impactful. And the players, the way they speak about the game too as well, offline is way different. Because when you're online, you just throw out your complaints, you're angry, you're upset, you know, you go with salt post.
But you're also stuck in a room too. It's kind of similar to, like, well, think about it this way. Like, we have if we're gonna relate it to like other things that are outside of FGC, it's like work from home. You know, you are like, it is exhausting to go to the office. I still think work from home is a better thing, right? But like, it's exhausting to go to an office and drive and spend that money on gas and everything like that every single day, or even to your local to go do that every single week. But there is something you get out of it. You do get personal relations and everything out of it. It can exhaust you. That tired, that like traveling so much, that is also a part of it, right? But when you over-index into like, oh, I'm just at home and I'm playing like with my arcade stick, and I have like and I'm on stream and I'm talking to strangers, and the camera is on you all the time. It's a very different feeling that you get, in a very different relationship you have with this game. I really do think, like, especially in the last year, like having a camera on me a lot more. Like I was used to it with like rap, but like again, like now as a YouTuber, it's a very different feeling. Like, oh, I have to look like interact with this thing the whole fucking time, and I can't
and
just
not with people.
Just chill. Yeah, I can't be off. Like I can't play the game without being on this, and that is a really difficult relationship to have with something, because all of your losses are public, all of your wins are public, all of your frustrations are public, right? Like even Idom was like, yo, this game is trash. You're allowed to feel that about games you even like, right?
Right.
But the problem is that, oh, now he's expressed something about it, and now people are going to get upset at him about it, and he's on camera, and he has to defend that. You're going to have a much more adversarial relationship with this thing that you're working on than you would if you just picked up this game for $60 and you and your friends are just fucking having a good time at a tournament.
That's also like there's also like a feedback that goes into this, right? Like where if you're sitting on your stream, people are going to give you that same sort of energy right back. If you hate a character or if you play low tier, whatever, the stream's going to be like, oh yeah, you're working so hard, yada yada. Right. They're not going to tell you different, bro. They're going to feed into that energy. So if you're salty, they'll feed into that energy, whether they want to do it because they love you or they just want to see some salt even more so. They're just going to reinforce that feeling. Whereas if you're offline, you ain't going to get that a similar sort of way. You might get people being like, hey man, maybe you should do this or whatever. You might get that variance too as well. And again, offline being what it is, I could go outside after I've had a bad run in some casuals and take a walk and look at Puerto Rico like I did at First Attack. I was like, man, I got my ass beat by a Grand Torticon, bro. I went out and got some great food. I feel way better and I reset my brain. Here, I'll play a bad rank match and I'll go right back in like an idiot. And a lot of people will do that. Now, it doesn't mean that there aren't things that should be changed with this game overall, because I think there are things that should be changed, but I think it's even more enhanced by the fact that there's a lot of online. Look how many tournaments are online. We have TNS that blows up every single Wednesday. Hundreds of people enter that. Then you've got other tournaments that are just all around the globe. The World Warriors, there's so much going on that's online. There's offline tournaments, but people are not traveling to them enough. And I think that is an issue. And I think that people need to start thinking about that. I know it's expensive. I know inflation's up and jobs are getting cut and things like that. But when you can, I really do think people should, even if it's like a local tournament or a small major, whatever it may be, go to these tournaments just to get that reset. You do not, it is undisputed how good offline is. You could be fighting the most ass of people in terms of play styles and stuff like that. You'd be fighting me and you'll still have fun. I guarantee
because it's also impersonal online. Like when you're fighting somebody, it's just some guy. And like when you're fighting, because I think that's something that also builds bad habits in the game. Like I realize a lot of times where like, I would play Ucola, right? Online, and I would play other people. And like, I'm like, there are times where I get into a lot of really bad habits playing other people because I don't have I don't feel like I'm playing a person. I'm just playing an avatar or like a random generator, right? And when I play Cola or somebody I know, for the first match, I'm kind of in that mode, and then I kind of snap out of it because I realize it's the person making these decisions. And it's just the realization that you're playing somebody. I mean, that happens in tournament, I'm sure, but like, the realization between playing somebody in ranked and somebody who's like right next to you is a different thing and a different feeling. I also do feel that Street Fighter 6's online is still really good, even with the few problems that have popped up.
Right, it's amazing.
I do think the other issue that you have is that, like, I mean, Lumi, you run a local as well in New York, don't you?
Correct. Yes, I do.
I feel like locals do not get enough exposure, like especially the way they used to. And I don't want to be like, oh, like the bygone days, where Wednesday night fights is in a garage and motherfuckers had no money. I mean that, like, look, there should be a little bit more exposure of locals and events like that for this to kind of thrive. I know that the one like kind of replacement for Wednesday night fights, or what that gathering was, is at Barcode in Southern California every week, where it's on Thursdays, called Thirsty Thursdays, and there's no tournament. People just come through, hang out, play the game. It's a very good time. It's a very entertaining time, and a lot of those players, you really don't see a lot of those players complaining online as much because they have something to go to where it's a social experience and event. I don't think we have enough exposure of that in the FGC. And I don't think top players have as much incentive to do those because I mean they have incentive, but like look, if you have to go out to a local where you're gonna get to play maybe, you know, like once, like you're not gonna get to play the whole hour. You're going to be talking with people. You're going to be on the station a couple times. Then you're going to take a break. You know, if you're at home, you're playing the whole time and you're getting money. Like you're getting paid. So that's a very different calculus at that point where it's like, okay, well, how am I spending my time? Because now this is your job. And that's going to negatively affect how that goes. I don't know how you solve that personally. Like how you solve the...
Overall, I think it's a really interesting like culture shift that we started with in specifically with Guilty Gear Strive. I think specifically started that. We ran Guilty Gear Strive at our local. People weren't coming out. I understand. We're more of an exert scene now because people come out for that. But Strive, it's like, why would I go out? I've seen a lot of that sentiment around that game and other games as well with rollback netcode. Like, why would I go out and, you know, waste, you know, the money and all that stuff when I can just go home and have quality matches? To that, you know, I can't really say much to you, but I can offer you the culture. And it's way different. It's way better. So do you two think that the culture of the, like, sort of the offline scene is what is sort of like influencing these people or not influencing these people to think a particular way about the game itself? So if I go to an offline event, am I going to enjoy Street Fighter 6 way more than if I just only play online?
I mean, I don't think that... I think it's dependent, right? Like, I don't think you can... I think when we only had offline events, we ran into a lot of issues where... Because it's exhausting. You're just exhausting a different thing. You're either exhausting your brain and your mental health or you're exhausting your physical health, right? And... you need, but like you get benefits to both no matter where you go, right? Like you get either rest and you're exerting more of your mental health and you get to just be at home and chill, or you get like you sacrifice some of your physical health and drive somewhere out and you get to be active and social with other people, and that boosts your mental health. So like there's different aspects to it in which you can have a positive relationship with this game, but you can't really. Like, I understand the culture shift that happens. I don't necessarily think it's only the FGC that's experiencing this because, like, you'll see other games like, bro, like, look at Counter-Strike. If you listen to the Counter-Strike community, they complain a fucking lot. And, like, every community for competitive games has these issues, right? But what mitigates them is that healthy balance of both. A lot of communities in esports are still recovering from the pandemic. And how that's kind of majorly shifted their business model, right? The only historical reference I can think of for like an industry that's went through this is like if you look at music has gone through like the same shift where it's like, okay, everybody just records and stays kind of isolated and then gives out their music and then they're private. And then that's what makes them their money. So you're just going to go record 5 to 10 albums. You'll tour occasionally, but that's not really your bread and butter. You listen to my album. I'm going to chill back here and you can do what you want, right? And then now the model has shifted to, okay, you don't really actually make a shit ton of money off of the recording of the music itself, right? So you'll record an album. You'll make a big music video and then you will tour for like 3 to 6 months and that will be your cash in, and then you go back and you record another album. And so like now it's a much more social experience. You have to be out there, you have to be in front of people all the time in order to make that kind of thing work. And I think like right now we've gone from we have to be inside and we have to be on stream to make most of our money, and that still is a more lucrative field. And until there is an incentive to where it makes sense to go to there's an incentive. It makes sense to go to events because you can monetize that in a way, or you can it'll help your monetization in some way, shape, or form. It won't make sense for players to go out, and I don't blame them. It's not like a sellout thing. It's like these people are trying to support their lives with this shit. Of course they're not going to fucking leave their house if I can't go to this local because I can't pay my rent. Like that's a real fucking thing.
It's a real issue.
Absolutely.
Yeah. For top players. It's not just normal players, for top players. Like if you're on, like, I can do this Twitch stream, and it's the difference between me getting this versus getting this year. Me being able to have money to get groceries and stuff like that. I mean, like, it's not that dire, but for some people, yeah, like at times, like it's, I have to do this, and I have to do this consistently, or I'm gonna fall off and I'm not gonna be able to support my family. That shit's important.
I think overall, though, I think overall, like, there are so many pluses and minuses to both online and offline. I'd like to see a mix. I like seeing people figure out things. And honestly, like, going back to like why people need reasons to come out to these tournaments and things like that. This is why tours are so important. As much as people don't want to hear that, tours are very important. You have a reason to play, gain points and things like that. You have esports teams or esports communities and things like that going around these tournaments and say, okay, well, these people are going to show up because they have to be. So I'll support these players. I'll support whatever them going out. They might make big waves. And that emboldens the tournaments to get even bigger and bigger and add more things and yada, yada. Tours are a very important part of an ecosystem, as much as we don't want to say that. They are. But there are things I feel like that we could do. I feel like that could intermix that online and offline. Like, for example, players that can't go offline all the time because they need to make money because they're making content. Well, I've seen people like Justin making content offline. Hungrybox 2 is also an example. He'll stream from the venue too as well. Not everyone can do that, but I feel like if we could start intermixing these things, and so if you go offline, you maybe can do the things that you do online to make money or content or whatever, so you can have the best of both worlds. I want to see that come back a little bit. For online, if you're at home, invite some of these players over and have just a cooking session, and we watch that. Angry Bird and Big Bird are, they don't play each other as much as they used to on their stream, but maybe they'll play with their friends every so often or something like that. Or maybe some of these pro players might be sitting by each other and have that interpersonalness between each other and stuff like that. So those elements can be mixed, and we can not lose these elements of the culture, because eventually, yes, online is going to be important no matter what. But I do think that we need more of that mixture of both, because I don't want to get rid of this good online that we have, but I don't want it to kill the offline, because that's very important. And I feel like that's a good reset for the brain. But online's so good about training players and helping players that don't have the ability to go out to locals or don't have big locals. I think we can do this, but we just have to get there. We are slowly getting there.
It's hard to find locals too, to be honest, because like
that's a problem.
Absolutely.
That's a problem.
That's a huge, because again, like in old SRK days, again when cavemen ruled, and like Alex Valle had fully black hair, like in those days, he's fucking gonna hate me. So like, I love UI, but like back in those days, you had the forums, and you had like regional kind of forums, right? Again, like, very transparently, Twitter has replaced SRK as the primary place people have discussions about this game, and it's very hard to tell people's region from Twitter, right? So like, there's communities, but they're not integrated very well. Like the closest thing we had for a while was the Facebook groups where people would have, where they could congregate and stuff, but those conversations rarely make it out of those local scenes, and they don't really get to influence or have their time of day. And I think that's the main difference, is like, if you have a repository where people can congregate and meet, because it's a different thing when you see a message and you're like, that guy lives like 20 minutes away from me, right? I can go play him now, instead of like, I can pull up my, because if you have to pull up CFN, that also feels very interpersonal. You don't know this person, but if this person is from your city, hey, you go to the same Ralph's, hey, you know the same restaurant like 5 minutes away where you guys get food. Like, that's a very different, you both, like, I'll tell you something, for California, like, if you mention to Californians, man, a lot of people bitch about In-N-Out, but it's great. Like, that's a community. Right? Like, there are similarities you'll get from those local events. And I think another thing that we haven't mentioned, I want to get your guys' take on this. We've talked about it before in other podcasts, but it's like, the spectator experience at events needs to be better. And it's not because people aren't trying to make it better, but the spectator experience at events feels like you're trying to cash in on people's interest in this game, as opposed to it's a social experience where you're all watching the same thing, right? If I walk into a ballroom, right, for an esports event, it shouldn't feel like I'm walking into a hotel where people are just trying to figure out what I want to do. It needs to be, it's like, I should be feeling like I'm walking into and I know that's hard, like SoFi Stadium, and there's food there, and there's things like, hey guys, we know you're here for this, but if you get bored, come hang out. That should be it. And I know that people are trying, Evo's gotten a lot better at that, you know, and certain events have gotten better at that, but there needs to be a ecosystem where if you, it's just fun. It's going out to a local is restful. You're not just going out there for video games. You're going out there for other things. Barcode, I think, does this very well because there's drinking there. There's social events. There's other things that are going on at that venue at the same time. There's things around there. Like, that's a very different calculus for why you should go out rather than, oh, I'm just going out to play games. I could do that at home.
Yeah. I want to kind of chime in really quickly. I want to run it back just a quick bit here. When we were talking about finding locals and stuff like that, I want to shout out the Ohio FGC, because what they decided to do, which I think is incredibly smart and what I'm trying to work on for New York at some point, is an Ohio FGC website. If you literally Google Ohio FGC, their website pops up and you can sort your locals by the town and city. So if I live in Toledo, and if I click on Ohio FGC and I go, oh, hey, let's see what's in Toledo. And here's all the locals in Toledo. And here's a calendar of what's happening.
This is pretty incredible. Like, this is fucking holy shit. This is not difficult to make on most website builders now.
Yes.
You know?
And as a matter of fact, Code Corey, he put out a GitHub template of this website and said, hey, FGC, please use this. Just replace Ohio with whatever state you're in and fill in the info yourself and stuff like that.
Have other states done this?
I believe another state has done this.
You know what? Actually, Chicago has done it. So Illinois FGC, if you type in, I typed in Chicago FGC. Illinois got something popping up too as well. Chicago Punish, I see. Ignite
I typed in California FGC and I got California Fish and Game Commission. So we got some work to do.
Yeah, we definitely got some. Oh, but that's a good point though, Lumi. That's really good. If I type in my city or my state in FGC and I don't see nothing, immediately within the first couple of search results that lead into something where I can find my locals, we've messed up. And it's a hard undertaking because I get that things open and close and there's a million locals that are around here.
Yeah,
but I think it's a worthwhile one because if I'm looking through, like for Illinois, I see a bunch of mine popping up for Ignite Gaming. I see a whole ass FGC Facebook group. I see actually a website fully for Illinois in totality, not just Chicago. So like I can see this stuff right here if I type it in, but I guarantee you for every place around the world, if I type it in, it's not going to show up. That's actually good stuff to Ohio and also obviously Illinois.
Yeah,
the best.
I think that's a brilliant. I really like if I'll be very real. If that happened tomorrow, if every region had that, I think we would have a different conversation.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
like think about if every region had that, and you had like a regional Discord for everyone. That changes the entire thing. Because also like we have Discords that are based around personalities, like Yipes' Discord or TNS's Discord or Hungry Box's Discord. We don't have or game Discords like the Dragon Ball Fighters Discord or the Street Fighter 6 Discord. We don't have a Discord where it's like everybody from California. You just have this Discord on there. Everyone from California.
Yeah.
I know Chicago has one, but for every single state though, like is that I don't know.
And some of these states are like massive.
city.
Like when you look at like New York, I'm mid-Hudson scene. I am in the middle of New York. I'm right above the city, right below Albany. Right? That's
for sure
where I operate. I'm trying to get everyone out. Right now, I have literally a Discord sitting on my computer right now called Tri-State TOs. And I'm just trying to get the people from Buffalo, Albany, like city people, Long Island, all those people together, just so we could go, hey, if you have a local, please tell us so that way I can put your flyer on our ad or do whatever we can in order to just sort of like get the word out. Because that's really the only way we grow, realistically, right? None of this is competition. This is all like, we're all colleagues here. We're all trying to help each other out.
And I think also like what you said about like some of these states being huge, it's true. Like a lot of these states aren't like California has like 4 different scenes, right? You have SoCal, you have Mid-Cal, which is Central California. You have NorCal, which is Northern California, like John Choi and everything like that. And then you have San Diego. San Diego's its own fucking scene and its own style. Like, even though it's in Southern California, it's its own ecosystem. So like, I do think like even if those forums had those like thing, like if you just need to have places which are centralized. And like, again, like I feel so bad shitting on Twitter because everybody shits on Twitter and it's become a political thing to shit on Twitter.
It's
like,
deserved.
It's deserved
Loki.
because it's not like even if Twitter was great, like even if it was great, if it was doing all of the things it needed to do, it's just not built for this kind of communication, right? Like I don't even feel like honestly, like Instagram now has community things where you can build communities from there. That makes more sense. The way Twitter is laid out is not conducive for you to put up tech for fighting games, put up things for people to learn. Because if you are looking for tech that's been discovered about a year ago, how the fuck are you going to find it? The search function is terrible. Like, you have to fucking search through all of these tweets to get good at this. That should not be it. This shit should be readily available for you to enjoy so more people come in. If you are told, hey, go on Twitter and search for your character and just download things from there, you're going to be like, well, where the fuck do I start? Like,
So,
why the fuck am I
go.
going to pick up this game? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree, 1,000%. All right,
Yeah.
we're going to move on to the next topic. We spent almost 40 minutes on just that, which is
I
fantastic.
just want to let everybody know this is Lumi's fault. We told him to limit the time, and he jumped in on it.
He was
No,
just like, let him
'cause
cook.
He
He said,
what
let
we're
him
gonna-
cook.
I just let him cook. That's what we got to do. Listen, the discussion was so natural, we had to have it because I mean, I was boiling inside. I was like,
It's an important discussion to have,
is.
like especially with the conversation. Like I think this conversation gets mired between, oh, you just think SF6 sucks, or oh, SF6 sucks, why are we not talking about it? As opposed to like, hey, what can change to make this a more enjoyable experience? And I think that's
Right,
an important
around
thing
it,
to
yeah.
have beyond patch this game or don't patch this game. Because if you patch this game tomorrow, I love everybody here, but nothing would change.
It'd be the same
Nothing would
players at the
change.
top.
It would change for a month, and then it wouldn't change. You know?
And even then, you got
So.
people switching. Listen,
Yeah.
I'm looking at you,
Every
Tokito.
pro
Listen,
player.
whoever's number
And
one.
listen, he goes right to it. That's how you know
Exactly.
modern isn't broken, because he'd be using modern if it was actually broken. And instead he's using Ken. So he knows what's good. He knows what's good.
The fact of the matter is it dissuades. Like, I've wanted to play. I played Ryu since this game came out. It is fucking painful. Okay, like it's not fun sometimes, right? Okay, but there are times where I do have fun with this game, and I want to be able to try Luke and Ken and other things like that. But the discussion online and the way you feel about these characters is so toxic. You feel like you're less than a person for switching to these characters. Now, if you're playing this game professionally, that's a no fucking brainer. Of course
Right,
you're
you
switching.
love it.
But because people get bullied about that choice, it doesn't. And again, they're getting bullied about that choice because of Twitter. There were always top tiers, and there was always some disdain around them. Vanilla Sagat was fucking broken in SF4. That shit is ridiculous. If you do a tiger knee on Vega in the corner, that's game. That's over. Like, he can't fucking do anything, right? Like, there are legitimately like broken things and broken characters from the past who don't get as much hate as like characters who are just moderately good now because of the way our Twitter and the discussion operates. And I think that like we just need to acknowledge that like it's hurting the ecosystem of the game and the social interaction of the game that needs to be a little bit more open, you know?
We'll definitely
Yeah.
use that for a topic for another time. Let's lock that in for later, because I definitely
Okay,
want
I'm
to talk
sorry.
about that one. No. That's a really good one that I want to talk about later. I got a lot of thoughts, but let's move on. Lumi, what's our next topic, brother?
All right, so we want to talk about Just Stop Oil, the protest that happened not too long ago in the CPT Paris Grand Finals. Oh, what do y'all think about that?
I hate talking about them all the time. Like, dude, like here's why it happened. Let's talk about why it happened.
Start from the beginning.
It happened because as soon as it did, today's the shit on Twitter episode. Listen.
Mhm.
We talk like one small thing. Somebody tweets on the FGC like Twitter, people will be like, "Oh shit," and then retweet and give their thoughts on it. Right? It won't be important. Right? Somebody could stub their toe on a table at a tournament, and motherfuckers will be like for the next day talking about, we need to look at tables at tournaments. I feel like tables are not positioned correctly
those.
at a tournament. Yeah. I feel like they're dangerous for everybody, and people will be like, I fucking love tables. Tables are the reason I go to tournaments. And other people will be like, oh, well, Twitter is twittering. And like, honestly, the only reason this is big is because, or it happened again, is because somebody saw it happen once at a tournament. People were like, that's fucking crazy that it would happen. But then it got really crazy where it was covered everywhere. Fucking Button Check covered it. Event Hubs covered it. Your mom and her friend were talking at the table and be like, did you hear about Just Stop Oil? Everybody fucking covered that shit. And then Just Stop Oil was like, oh my God, all these people are upset. Let's do it again at a fighting game tournament. Because they know what, listen. They are targeting fighting game tournaments because they are less popular. Do you understand how badly Just Stop Oil is doing, right? There are a million things that are going on that are front facing the world right now. This is their best option. Because no bad news is bad news for them.
That's true.
Right?
Yep. Yeah.
I think there's another element to this, though. There's also another reason why this gets covered or got covered so much is that we ain't got no security, bro. We letting motherfuckers just come up on the stage for free to wipe oil all over paint or whatever all over our screens twice, bro. Twice. And that's also part of the reason why I think they're allowed to get away with this kind of stuff, because at other venues, maybe, I'm not sure in other esports, but at least things that are outside of gaming, they probably got security out the ass. You go to a concert, there's like 5 big burly black dudes being like this, just stacked up like a damn wall. But when you go to like an FGC or even like a gaming event or smaller events that maybe just don't have that stuff or haven't really dealt with that stuff continuously, there ain't security like that. And that's not faulting the events at all, because until you have something happen like that, you don't know some crazy asshole is going to go up and show paint on their hands in front of the screen. Like, you have no idea. Even though it happened the second time, who would have thought they would come up again for another run, even though there was like stuff in the front? So it's not like there wasn't anything stopping them from getting it. They actually had to vault over a couple of things to get up to the stage, and people did take them down immediately this time. It was even faster. But it's like you don't have that experience, so you don't know, because these events don't have to deal with this stuff continuously, like compared to music or other stuff. And I also think at the end of the day, comparatively to, although this did get covered and it did get some shine on Twitter, maybe more than they thought it was going to be, it's the FGC, bro. You got like not that much compared. If you went to like a Fortnite thing, this would be for months. But you ain't gonna make it to a Fortnite thing because you're afraid, you're scared. They probably have maybe a little bit more security, or even any other like an actual like place with security like that has like paintings and things like that, or artwork or whatever it may be. You ain't gonna go to that.
I mean,
they did
it. That was their first. That was their first thing. Is they did it, and they kept on.
But how many times
doing
have they done it now, though? Like, how many times have they done it in recent history? You know what I'm saying? Like, you go to something that's going to be an easy shot, an easy mark that maybe doesn't get as much. But as you said before, that's how bad they're doing, that they're aiming for FGC and gaming events of all things. How weak are you to do that, bro?
I don't know. Listen, shout out to production for acting so quickly and just being like, okay, new monitors, go.
Back in.
But I hated the dude like who fucking walked up and he was just like, I'm just gonna bend. Like they didn't do it like I'm doing it at the part. They were just like, I'm just gonna bend over and rub this on the screen for just a little bit. I just need to just get it. Like he was just doing it so slow, and people were just like, what the fuck is going? I think you have a good point too, Cola, which is like the fact that there's like, the no security thing is definitely there. Also, I do want to bring up, like, do you guys think that that's because of not necessarily top player privilege, but I'm saying, like, look, a lot of top players, when they are near the stage, there's just kind of this implicit thing like, yo, we're not going to do something bad. We know these people. We're like their family pretty much, right? So because a lot of top players know each other, it's like, yo, we know each other. We're here. We're around the stage. Like, even on the Evo stage, there was kind of a lot of people who were getting up and going nuts and stuff like that near the front, like me. But, like, I think that, do you think that affects it? Like, there should be a barrier, like, for nobody, like a hard cut barrier. I don't know if Just Stop Oil is the person to do that, but I do think that there needs to be at some point like a restriction about badge access to like who gets to like how far away you are from the stage and the performer specifically, right? You know,
that's hard.
That is tough and it very insanely venue dependent. But I agree. I think there should be absolutely like a barrier. I say, hey, better just.
And
stop
I'm somebody
oil.
I'm somebody who enjoys like being able to be like, if I see like a friend on stage, you know, not that I've like, I don't know Mena or Punk or anybody that well, but if I see Cola backstage, I've loved like just fist bumping, and you get to break the rules a little bit because you're slightly known. Like I think that image tells people who are bad faith that oh, this isn't guarded. Fucking
I can
what?
get away with this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, and a lot of people can jump and do really fucking weird things on those stages. I mean, fucking Chris G, one of his most well-known things is some fucking guy coming up,
the ghost of Marvel.
and like, yeah,
challenge him to a match right after. See, your job's not done. Had the controller in his hand and everything. He was
Sit
like,
back down.
keep
We're
that
playing.
motherfucking thing on me. Yeah.
but it plays into everything. If the spectator experience was different, if people were like, again, like you should not come into the scene only wanting to be a player. You should enjoy being a spectator. You should enjoy being a fan of people. Like that should be okay. I think we demonize a lot of people like, oh, you're just a fucking Justin stan. So let people be Daigo fans and Daigo stans and, you know, like Sonic Fox. Let that be there. That grows an ecosystem. You know, that's not loser mentality. That's love for a thing that we all like. I think it's more loser to like
appreciation.
Shit on the growth of a community because it's going there, you know?
Right.
I personally
Right.
met people with spectator badges at events, and I asked them, hey, I was just online, you know, waiting for merch. So I was like, hey, strike up conversation. Hey, why specifically didn't you compete? I know you play Strive, right? And she goes, yeah, you know, I just anxiety and all that stuff. Plus, I really just like watching.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, word, absolutely. That's perfectly reasonable. And you got to accept that there's so many people out there that literally just would rather watch a top 8 than play.
I was gonna say maybe the solution for all of this is just to, for some of these events, have somebody dedicated be by like the stairs or in that general area, or a couple people. They ain't got to be like full ass security, whatever, but just the usual staff to just make sure people aren't like looking to be weird. Because I feel like you can tell someone come up with a paint can in their hand, they're gonna do something stupid. Right?
Yeah.
Like you can kind of see like, okay, man, I know what your intentions are, because I don't want to lose the element of like people running up the stage and like hugging people. That was one of the biggest things for one of the mid-best points that happened when Cool Kid got top 8, when Jessica got top 8 too as well. I'm sitting here punching the floor right by him. Like, I don't want to lose that. So like, we don't have to have like a truncated area off. I don't want to lose that element. Just have a few people by the area just watching and make sure nobody's being weird as fuck.
So you're saying it's not increase security, but make security more effective.
Just in those certain areas, I think. Like, because we have security at events. It's not like we don't have security, especially when we go into like CEO, combo breaker. There are metal detectors and things like that. There's actually security that walks around, make sure everything's okay. There's actually been more safety in the past couple of years than there has been years just in general at FGC events. So it's not like we don't have security. It's just that we're not prepared for this type of activity, right? We're prepared for other things, but maybe not someone rushing the stage in bad faith to rub oil. That's something completely new to everybody.
I agree.
So we just adjust accordingly. I don't think it's like a thing that the events are doing wrong in general, like security's lax and bad. They just have to adjust to this new meta.
New reality, new meta.
Yeah.
New meta. What a way to
Dude,
put it.
running the stage in oil right now is way too powerful. They gotta nerf that shit.
So what is up with patch culture? I've seen some murmurs online talking about it. What is the appropriate amount of times the games should be patched? Street Fighter 6 is only doing one patch per year, apparently, one big patch a year. And some people are up in arms about it. Other people, you know, agree with this. I want your 2 takes on it. How many times do you think a game should be patched per year?
I want to just say before we get into this, Lumi, you started this podcast, this first podcast of yours, being like, you know, like, I'm going to talk about this topic. And then this last time when you said the topic, yo, let's talk about fucking patch culture. All right. Listen. Gabagool, I'm from New York. All right. Like, let me tell you about patch culture.
Bacon, egg, and cheese.
Bacon, egg, and cheese. Can I get a bacon, egg, and cheese?
Zach,
New York came out.
talk to me. Well, what's up?
I think Uh, I think you should patch a game at like one mid-season patch and one and the mid-season patch should not be a like a drastic buff or nerf, right? It should be only to adjust things that are hurting the game, right? So like I'll be very honest. I think that like if they, let's say Street Fighter 6 did have a we're past a mid-season. Let's say they did have a mid-season patch, right? If the mid-season patch was literally like take away JP's like take away the throw invincibility on the EX amnesia for JP, like that's the only thing. I think that would be a valid thing to do. Right? Like that or like things that are like very broken where you just make them slightly less broken. Like you kill the broken aspect of it, but everything else is fine. Like I don't think you should change any Ken normals, right? I don't think you should change Luke's like crouching medium punch and everything like that. I think like certain things like that are like, oh my god, this is like ridiculous. And certain things that you just need characters to just have like a little bit of like a thing like, hey, let me give Ryu this so it works. Let me give this person this so it works, right? You're not changing the character drastically. You're giving him one little new tool or one little change. I think that's a good, healthy way to do things. And then and I mean, obviously I'm speaking a little bit ignorantly because I'm not a developer and I know that little things can reverberate, right? But like small things like that, and then by the end of it, like, and then in the full season, like you do a whole like shift and everything like that, and then people can adjust their characters like as is. That's my thought. You know, just fixing things and tidying things as opposed to like a giant redirection of what's going on.
I agree with that. You do it halfway in the season. Obviously, for like right now for this game, it's good that they're actually waiting a year. I know people don't want to hear that, but I'm glad they're waiting a year because the complaints for the first 2 months are so different than every other month after. Honda used to be top tier, used to be insane. Perfect parry. People were asking for that to get buffed, and now look at it. Now people want it to be nerfed. And there have been a lot of other things, like JP used to be, his mid-range is weak. People didn't know how to utilize his buttons, and then Kakaru came through and changed that all up and morphed that whole discussion. Even Ken was weak in the beta, and now look at him. He is disgustingly ridiculous as people have gotten a grasp on how the game should be played. And honestly, when it comes to, especially like the first year, it's hard to differentiate what's actually broken and what's not and how the game should be played because most people, if not everybody, is ass in the first iteration of the game. Compare the first iteration of 5 and how people are playing footsies compared to later on in the game. It's not just the system mechanics that have changed, but the play styles, how they have maneuvered around the game mechanics and things like that. It's been way different because people get better. You don't understand how a game's played until you play it for months upon months to a year plus. It's just, even the best know that they don't know enough about this game even right now. So when we ask for things to be changed in the first couple of months, we have to be careful about that because when we do get the patch, we may be asking for the wrong things. Imagine if we asked for JP to be buffed. That could have happened, and people were asking for that with the quickness too as well, or with the Honda to be nerfed, or perfect parry just in general for that to be buffed. We would have been in an even worse meta right now. So I agree with the 6 months, and then you drop the patch on after deliberating, but nothing drastic. I like the idea of making slight tweaks to these characters. Like for JP, for example, OD Amnesia, I'd say scale it on the damage for now. Honestly, the damage that he gets off of that is insane. Keep the goofiness. I like the goofiness, but he shouldn't get so much off of it right after. And I think that, Capcom and any developer has to be careful about what they see up on Twitter or whatever, because they should always wait a little bit because those things get changed. Even recently right now, there's a certain like glitch going around where you get a little bit of extra bar. You don't spend any OD gauge. It's like a glitch with how things interact. If you move, it goes away. It's not very tournament viable right now. There might be some better application with certain characters. But first they saw it with JP. And everyone's like, oh, nerf JP, I told you. JP needs to be nerfed to get out of the game right now. But within 2 days or a day at least, and found out other characters can do this too. It's not just JP, it's other characters. It's Sim, it's Blanca, it's Guile. So without letting these things simmer, we won't know in full what's going to happen or what should be changed. So people have to be careful if we are getting these 6 months patches to be careful what they wish for. You might get monkey pawed. You might get characters getting buffed when they shouldn't. So honestly, that's why I think we should have a smaller change with these major patches in terms like the 6 months or whatever, nothing drastic for the characters, keeping the vision of the game. And hope that continues with this game in general. No matter what patch comes, keep the vision of the game.
I think the other thing we should also realize is that like a lot of times, I do think that this podcast specifically, we're always trying to look at like how Street Fighter and fighting games relate to the larger world and the future that we want for it, which is like an actual esport, or not even an esport, just a vocation or a thing that a lot of people come to and fall in love with, and it's something that people can. It's a phenomenon. We want it to be as big as Worlds, but with us, with our personality on it, right? Like without the bullshit. And you have to understand that, like, and I always and for the umpteenth time I'll relate it to basketball. Like, look, a couple years back there was a large conversation, and it still happens every so often, that man, the game has changed for the worse. It was better in the 90s where people could beat the shit out of each other. Like, right, there was literally somebody who developed a team where there was a city that developed a team where like you could just beat the shit out of Michael Jordan. Okay, like that's the Detroit Pistons just did that. And when you see that type of basketball happen and the way the rules are structured and the rules changed, all of a sudden people started just shooting threes because Steph Curry and the Splash Brothers. All of a sudden you had multiple people just really drilling down on like, I can make a shot from like half court. Like, I'm really good at threes. Like, it's fucking crazy. You can't deal with me. And the whole meta around basketball kind of shifted to that. And the pick and roll wasn't as good. This wasn't as good. That wasn't as good. And all of a sudden, the idea of how you play basketball was shifting. People were like, this is not how you play basketball. It's fucking ruining the game. It's boring to watch. Blah, 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 blah. Why are the Golden State Warriors in every fucking, like, finals? You know, what's going on? Well, if you're following basketball now, game is different. Game has changed significantly. Yes, people can still shoot threes, but people have developed counter strategies to that, right? The Golden State Warriors aren't cleaning up every single fucking week, right? The like people like LeBron, who are dominant at times, right, have to deal with people like Jokic. If you follow basketball, there's a guy named Jokic who is who's fucking crazy and can like shoot a basketball from behind his head and make it. And like fucking LeBron was like, I don't know how to deal with that. I don't know how you deal with that kind of a thing. Like big bodied players who are dominant in a way at shooting the ball that other players would not be. Like them would not be. Like, so it's a very different game. And that's because they didn't change the rules. They didn't change who could do whatever. Teams adjusted around it through complaints. Nobody took back what they said those years. They stood by it. There's no like, oh, I'm sorry, I was wrong about this. Stephen A. Smith hasn't gone on record and been like, you know what? Maybe I need to be a little bit more humble about the way I speak on things. All right. Like, teams adjusted. And I think you're right, Cola. People will adjust around these metas. People will adjust and figure things out. And, you know, it's worth going through that. But like, the negativity is normal because everybody's just like, why the fuck is this not being fixed now?
They're invested.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I want to say really quickly, it's also okay to just not like a meta.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just straight up. Like, if you don't enjoy the Street Fighter 6 meta right now, that's understandable. Just know, though.
And that's different from not liking the game. Not liking the
Exactly.
game
Yeah,
and not
that's
liking the meta are two
completely
different things.
Exactly. And just know that meta is not going to be there forever. Okay? Even if it takes a year or two, it's going to be probably a different meta game being played. And that might go, you might go, hey, wait, Street Fighter is looking kind of fire right now. Let me boot that up again. And lo and behold, you spark your love for Street Fighter again. You know, it's okay to sort of like cycle through these games and stuff like that, I feel. Maybe not so if you're a pro player, right? But, you know, not everyone's a pro player. So.
But even Marvel,
That's a good
like
point,
look at Marvel this year, like think about it this way, like Marvel came back, that game, by the way, like when that game died, like, or like was removed, right? Like around that time, like a lot of people, I remember there were so many complaints about Marvel for years, right? Like there were a lot of people complaining, like, it's just Zero May Cry. It's hype, but it's just Zero May Cry. I wish Marvel 2 was here. You know, in Marvel 2, you had so much more player expression. Somebody said every Dante player plays Dante the same fucking way. Every Virgil player plays Virgil the same way. It's boring, right? And you had that consistently going on. Now, look, there are criticisms you can level against Marvel with Zero May Cry and everything like that. That being
Right.
said, this year was very crazy with the teams that made top 8 and the competition that was there. Like, who had the Iron Fist assist? Who was the?
I forgot his name, but that was
bother me.
dope.
That's
I
fucking
forgot his
crazy,
name.
right? And Kane was dominant. Kane was scary this year in a way that, by the way, like there are other times where he's played Zero May Cry. He did not have. He became better as a player, but that game hasn't been touched for years, and people are figuring shit out. Smash are banning characters because they're figuring out shit that's fucking insane. You know?
Well, that's not a
Like-
good example.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I know what you mean, but like,
Steve,
that's like a sharp term. But I mean, you're right in terms of them figuring it out.
Yeah, I mean,
No way.
I don't say ban thing, but like, look, DJ, we've millions of people have made this comment, but like, it's true. That's how meta changes.
But so for like the meta of a game is going to be different depending on you as a player and your skill set. For most of these people, I'm going to keep it real. The tier list don't matter. It really doesn't matter. You as a player to get better. And for people to see they're like, oh man, this character's top tier or this character's too much to deal with. You know, for you, if you're down here and the pro player's up there, you don't got to worry about any of this. So all this meta talk and stuff like that and all the tier list, this character's too powerful. You trying to get your B&Bs on and this, you know, you're trying to rank yourself out of master and stuff. This doesn't matter. None of this up here really has to apply to you. You're in a fantastic position to just absolutely chill, and you got to figure out yourself as a player first and your character and things like that, which is more important than, okay, what's top tier? What's the plus frame, minus frame situation on this very minute interaction with these characters? I feel like people kind of go too far with that when they're not there yet. I'm talking to people that are like, in Twitch chats and they're like, yeah, I got an opinion about this matchup. I'm like, are you sure it's like this? Because I've heard pro players say it's like that. And they're like, yeah, well, when I'm in platinum, I'm getting beat by it. And I'm like, well, you're in platinum. And it's no offense to you, but you don't understand the game just yet at that level where you can make those big calls overall in terms of a matchup. So like, I think also what's the best way to put it? You don't have to deal with the meta because it doesn't affect you for most players.
Yeah.
Look at how many people are in master rank. A lot of them are below, and even then, master rank don't really matter much. It just matters how much time you put into a character. It's not really an indication of skill, but like, you don't have to care about a meta that much, you know? Like, you could just play.
You can also care mainly about your local scene too. Like, I think like a lot of people
True.
get really worried about like, oh, what I'm doing. There is something to be said about like being a big fish in a small pond. You're like being like, oh, I'm better than everybody because I'm the best in fucking Irvine, California, you know? But like, where I'm from, shut up. So like yeah, there's something to be said about feeling like you're just the best and you're like one local and that you're better than everybody, right? That's a little bit big-headed. But you can have pride about being the best amongst your friends. Like, that's a valid thing. And I think we don't have that a lot. I think a lot of times when we don't have that, it becomes really toxic. Like in rap music, like in general, there was a point where the meta in rap music was like, you have to be the best in the world. You have to make the XXL freshman list or you're not really like on that trajectory, right? And then over a couple years, big artists who we know now, like A$AP Rocky and fucking Post Malone and other people, rejected the freshman list. They're like, I'm not going to be on that fucking list, right? But they're dominating the game. And now all of a sudden there are a million ways or in a million different lanes you have to be able to do this stuff. Again, we were talking about a player who played Iron Fist, and that's memorable. They're talking about the blind player who played E Honda, right? You know, there are a lot of players we have in this scene who didn't win Evo in the last 5 years, but are really well-known entities and can sell sponsorships and can have a living from this, right? So your lane doesn't have to be everybody else's lane. You could just be somebody who loves the game and like likes playing it occasionally, right? And I think until that happens, we're going to still have this meta discussion because people feel like they're not good enough because they're not dominating master rank in a way that is terrifying to watch.
Yeah. I've also heard, you know, the other flip side, a genuine like concern for like, you know, this is the 4th jury I fought in a row and you're just like, you know, like asleep at the wheel. Like, I
Yeah.
don't want to fight another jury. I understand that too. You know, when you see a ton,
Yeah.
when you see Ken in the top 8 and there's like 5 Kens there, you know,
Yeah.
it gets a little occasional. Where you're like,
But that's every fighting game, though.
Exactly.
Bro, I just
it's also
I
recency
keep,
bias.
yeah, dude. Like people act like, bro. Do you know how many fucking Chun-Li's I fought playing Third Strike? Do you know how fucking bro?
you're preaching to the choir.
The Urians of Street Fighter V?
The first
All the time, bro.
the first like tournament I went to, for the first Evo I ever went to was 2006, and because I'm fucking old, and like you had 2 players playing Chun-Li, and I'd never seen a Chun-Li mirror in Third Strike. Seriously, I'd never seen it because we didn't have YouTube at the time all that much. Well, it had just started, and motherfuckers were just doing short, 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 short. Like there was a point where they like just built up their meter and then went to the middle to see who could hit the first short. Because why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't? That's the whole match. And so people are just like, why the fuck are we watching this? Because it was so like fucking. And then of course, and then like when other stuff came on, it was great. Like there was a point where there was an Akuma mirror in Evo Finals, and it was just eat, 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 and they were just doing air fireballs for like an hour, dude. Yeah. It's there's strategy to all of this stuff, but that happens when the characters are like strong, you know. Everybody did 3-pointers for a long fucking time, and now people can throw basketballs, make swishes from behind their fucking head. So, you know, just wait a couple months. It'll change.
I want to stir the pot just a little bit. I want to stir the pot just a little bit. CPT France, where are those JPs at? Buff JP. Buff JP, baby. Buff JP. Strange, I didn't see no JPs up there. That's strange.
I think my one worry about this, my one worry about all of this, especially with Twitter and everything like that, is that people get the wrong impression of what's going on because of the negativity. I think everybody worries about that. Is people get the wrong impression because of the negativity, and I think that's true. That's a reasonable fear, but I also think that it's just not healthy internally to feel that way about stuff. Like Street Fighter 6 is not gonna like playing these games is supposed to be fun, and if you're doing it, like it's not supposed to be your salvation for things that you want in your life, right? Sometimes, like when something becomes your job, you have to have other things that are restful, and if this is not restful for you, like you need to take a break, especially if you're a pro player. Like I understand that there is a thing about playing all the time, but like you can't. I'm talking way too much, but like you can't fucking. Like if you need an hour or like a day break, take that, because your brain is gonna like thank you, and you're gonna become better when you come back to it.
Yeah, no, that's a real thing. Like I'll take a week from Tekken, and now I'm hitting electrics again, and I'm like, hey, I'm kind of nice at this game again, and it's like, you know, it happens, and you'll see this a lot with like pro players, and I understand that Twitter is like a huge space to just like vent, and that's what like a lot of people. Just will, like, quoting Justin Wong, mash on words, you know, emotion soup, whatever comes out, the first thing they think, you know, immediately and stuff like that, you know. The only thing I would encourage and invite people to do is just take a step back. Don't hit send just yet. Just wait and be like, you know what? Let me wait a week, see how I feel about it. And if I still feel the same way, then I think that's a legitimate thing to share, and maybe that introduces a discussion to have an actual productive one, not something that's just, you know, venting and shouting. All of this.
Also, Twitter's a space to vent that like nothing you vent gets answered. So like if you're venting, like there's a difference between venting where it's like, oh well, we're all gonna figure this out, and venting where it just stays in the ether. Right. Yeah. It's like fucking. Like Bartholomew, like Kuma from fucking One Piece, taking out all of the damage
little
in your
pawpaw
life.
fruit,
and then you gotta fucking just like hold that. Like we're all just drinking like sadness after a while, you know. When you could be drinking this podcast, let them cook. Anyway, Anyway, it's been great having Lumi on. Again, just a reminder, we're going to eventually move this podcast, probably in the next couple weeks, to the main Zaid Tabani channel. So if you want to keep up, we're going to turn this into a clips channel. You can see things bite-sized, but if you want to see the full episodes, they'll be on the Zaid Tabani channel. Anyway, without further ado, I just want to say my name is Zaid Tabani.
I'm St. Cola.
And I'm Lumi.
And we'll see y'all soon. Let's go!